Now on Nightside, the Spokane City Council voted on new laws against public camping, what those laws mean for homelessness in the city.
And it was a pretty nice day today, but we got a lot of changes because of a storm off California right now. We'll take you through it.
Spokane drivers have been hitting high speeds. How fewer lanes may be the solution. You're watching 4 News Now Nightside. Thank you for staying up with us tonight. I'm Kirsten O'Connor.
And I'm Aaron Luna. We start this evening with breaking news. Spokane police say they received a call at 8:30 about a man trapped underneath a car at East Main and North Pittsburgh. SPD says it appears the man had been working on the car. They say they think the car jack slipped while he was under the car, and that car crushed him. Well, things are cooling down. It might get a little breezy as well. Matt Gray in for Chris Crocker tonight. And Matt, what can we expect tomorrow?
Little breezy weather and some nice temperatures, right? We've had some pretty nice weather. It's felt like fall. Things have been going pretty good. And we just dropped down into the 50s in parts of Spokane. Fairchild and the International Airport. Now down to 59. We're down to 57 in Cheney. Already down to the mid-50s in Spirit Lake. We're going to hang on to those 60s for probably another hour or two in downtown and down the valley as we stay in that 62 to 65 range here as we hit the 11 o'clock hour. We are going to dip down to the 40s for pretty much everyone through the overnight and then quickly heat up to the 60s as we get into the later parts of the afternoon, or later parts of the morning and into the lunch hour as we head into tomorrow. One thing that you are definitely going to notice, first of all, is that it's going to be quite comfortable in most areas, but also that we're going to have some chillier temperatures as you head north of Interstate 90, 39 for Sandpoint overnight, 37 in Colville. Some areas that don't see any wind tonight, some of those sheltered valleys, the little nooks and crannies in the northern mountains could get a little bit of frost. Yeah, it is that time of the year. Other thing you're going to notice is some pretty windy weather as we head into the lunch hour and beyond. We'll show you some impact from those winds around parts of the inland northwest. And we got to talk about some rain coming on the way for later this week as we wrap up the final few days of summer.
Matt, thank you. The Spokane City Council voted to update its illegal camping laws, saying it's to protect people from situations that could pose a threat to public health and safety.
It was originally proposed by City Council President Brian Beggs and Councilwoman Lori Kinnear to better align with federal law. The update includes prohibiting camping at all times, regardless of shelter space, within 50 feet from any railroad viaduct and 3 blocks of any homeless shelter. It also bans it anywhere police consider it a threat to the public or government facilities. We are now learning more about another resource that's already on the west coast of Washington, using tiny homes to house the homeless.
It's an idea that we've been hearing about here in Spokane as the homeless population does continue to grow. But what would it take to actually bring those tiny homes to our community to assist the homeless? More specifically, the question is, what would it cost? Pallet is one of several companies that develop tiny homes as a way to combat homelessness. And according to their website, the smallest tiny home is 64 square feet and costs $7,500. To house every individual of Camp Hope, that total cost would run $4.8 million. But people living in Camp Hope say that they are holding on to this promise. Very few are utilizing nearby shelters because many are under the impression they'll qualify for a tiny home if they stay at the encampment, fearing they'll miss out on that opportunity if they leave.
Yeah, over the course of the last 2 weeks, we've had 38 individuals indicate that they came here from Camp Hope.
Brad Baker is the director of the Trent Resource Center, and he tells 4 News Now that they are seeing other homeless individuals across the county utilize the Trent shelter, and about 25 people from Camp Hope are consistently using it. So far, though, there are no plans to bring a pallet home community to Spokane in the immediate future.
Well, cutting lanes to curb speeds, that's what's happening now on Sprague Avenue in Spokane Valley. The city says people are driving way too fast. They're testing out fewer lanes to see if it makes a difference. Here's where it's happening. Sprague Avenue between University and Herald Roads is now down to 3 lanes. Traffic engineers say fewer lanes can still keep up with traffic needs. Local business owners see chaos unfold from their storefronts on Sprague. Drivers are supposed to go 35 miles per hour. That is not happening. The city says on any given day, they're clocking over 100 people driving 50 miles an hour. It's not safe, and this change is supposed to help.
When people are traveling that fast and somebody goes the wrong way, it's not a pretty sight.
Engineers also want to improve pedestrian safety. The city wants to install a blinking crosswalk near City Hall. Fewer lanes means pedestrians can get across the street quicker. This is only a pilot project through the end of October. Engineers want to hear from you before making this update permanent. Head on over to KXLY.com to learn more about the project.
Well, a man is now being charged with assault for stabbing his friend and attacking a first responder. The sheriff's office says 22-year-old Bobby Lewis stabbed a man he was staying with temporarily. Lewis then ran to a nearby field where emergency responders arrived on scene to help. The sheriff's office says Lewis appeared to be intoxicated. He then tackled a first responder to the ground. No one involved suffered life-threatening injuries.
The Baltimore man convicted for a 1999 murder that became the subject of a popular podcast, Serial, is now out of prison. Adnan Syed walked out of court today after a judge ordered his conviction overturned. He was a teenager when he was found guilty of murdering his ex-girlfriend and sentenced to life. However, Syed's attorney presented some reliability issues to the state in 2021. Today, prosecutors say they're still investigating him and not dropping the case. A new episode of Serial is dropping tomorrow following news of Syed's release. Well, earlier this evening, you watched the Philadelphia Eagles just dismantle the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. They cruised to a 24-7 win and improved to 2-0 on the season. And the Seattle Seahawks were trying to reach that mark this weekend, but they did fall short.
Unfortunately, it was a pretty fun game to watch from start to finish as the team has to come down to earth in just a matter of days. Alex Crescendi's here with more on the team's struggles down in Santa Clara this weekend, Alex.
That's right. It seems like we are a long way departed from the Seattle Seahawks upsetting the Denver Broncos last Monday night, because whatever performance they brought that night seemingly did not make the trip down to California with them this weekend, as they were routed by the rival Niners. And while there's a lot of holes in this team, maybe the biggest issue lies on the offensive side of the ball, where the team was downright terrible. They only managed 216 yards all day long while committing 3 turnovers and getting nearly doubled in the time of possession. In fact, the Seahawks offense hasn't scored a single point in 6 quarters now, and head coach Pete Carroll says it's going to take a little bit of everything to get back on track.
There's some real solid things, but we want to get the running game more active and part of the game, and we have to take, in this game, we needed to take what they were giving us more so. You know, they really were laying off and giving us some room, and Gino was popping the ball around. He was in good shape to throw it, and protection wasn't bad. We should have gone that way a little bit more.
Now, Seahawks will now return home for a matchup with the 0-2 Falcons. I don't think it's a far stretch to think that the loser of this matchup could be well competing for the #1 overall pick in the draft next year. And coming up a bit later on in sports, we're going to have more from the Washington State Cougars' big matchup with the Oregon Ducks this upcoming weekend, as well as checking on the Seattle Mariners out in Anaheim this afternoon. Aaron, Kirsten, send it back to you.
Thanks so much. Well, the Queen was laid to rest today. Her final procession is coming up.
An earthquake hit the west coast of Mexico. How Mexico City is dealing with the aftermath.
Puerto Rico is dealing with high waters because of Hurricane Fiona. We'll have more after the break.
Track live radar on the 4 News Now weather app.
4 News Now is brought to you by Culligan Water. Chevy Silverado. It's got the power you want and the capability you need to do the job, so you can get to the important work. Find new moments, find new roads. The Silverado with the 2.7-liter turbo engine travels over 400 miles on a full tank of gas. Plus, now during truck season, get a $1,000 accessory allowance toward a new Chevy truck with accessories. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
It's like the Avengers have arrived.
I'm here to have some fun.
The buzziest late show on Hollywood Boulevard. Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Is there anything he won't brag about?
Biden and the Democrats printed trillions we don't have. The D.C. way. They spend, we pay. Gas and groceries are crushing family budgets. Kathy McMorris Rogers says, no way. Kathy's fighting every day to cut spending and get American energy back online. Lowering gas prices and securing energy independence from Russia and China. Fighting to hold Biden accountable. Kathy McMorris Rogers, our voice.
I'm Kathy McMorris Rogers, and I approve this message. the Inland Empire 6. 6 local Honda dealerships dedicated to putting your Keister in a Honda. And your Keister will thank you for it because it'll be riding in comfort, style, and America's most fuel-efficient full-line automaker. And that can save your Keister at the gas pumps. Not to mention every Honda is packed with high-tech safety features that keep all your little Keisters safe and happy. See your local Honda dealer today. Honda gets the Inland Northwest.
4 News Now welcomes Kirsten O'Connor. You expect more from local news. Important information that makes a difference to you. Kirsten O'Connor delivers. And that's what we mean when we say, expect more. Get to know Kirsten. Weeknights on 4 News Now.
4 News Now is brought to you by Fairway Floor.
Around the world today, Queen Elizabeth II was carried to St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, where she was laid to rest this afternoon.
Crowds lined the streets of London to watch the procession with the royal family. ABC's Faith Abube is in London with the latest.
Stirring scenes of British pageantry and royal tradition on full display for Queen Elizabeth's final goodbye. Bells from London to Windsor tolling through the Queen's funeral. The coffin met with a gun salute at Windsor Castle for that final mile to her resting place at St. George's Chapel. In London, members from every branch of Britain's military on hand for the rare state funeral. It began Monday morning at Westminster Hall. Pallbearers drawing the gun carriage with the Queen's flag-draped coffin, adorned with a wreath of flowers, the imperial crown, scepter, and orb. King Charles leading his siblings and his children in a royal procession behind the Queen's coffin to Westminster Abbey, the church where Queen Elizabeth was crowned as a monarch and where she was married. The Queen's great-grandchildren joining the procession inside the church, filled with about 2,000 mourners, including hundreds of dignitaries and heads of state. The grief of the royal family visible during the service. The King's eyes welling with tears while the choir sang, "God Save the King." Authorities estimate about 1 million well-wishers crowded central London streets to see the solemn event, some of them watching in mournful silence, others clapping in reverence.
That was the lump in the throat moment, I think, when the coffin came by and so slowly, and the family behind.
The emotional farewell to Queen Elizabeth II, capping 10 days of public mourning, where tens of thousands waited up to 24 hours in line to pay their final respect. Others camping out for days just to see this moment. Britain's longest reigning monarch now laid to rest. And after the public ceremony, the royal family participated in a private service and then laid Queen Elizabeth II down to rest next to her late husband, Prince Philip, at St. George's Chapel. A new era has now begun. In London, Faith Abube, ABC News.
A 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit just off the southwestern coast of Mexico, and now 1 person has been killed.
Rainfall from Hurricane Fiona has heightened the Guanajuhibo River in western Puerto Rico at an all-time record height. The river rose 17 feet in about 12 hours on Sunday. It's now at 29.2 feet. The past record set on September 20th, 2017 during Hurricane Maria was 28.59 feet. The river begins overflowing its banks around 21 feet. Some residents are being warned not to go outside unless it's an emergency, and rescues are ongoing.
Well, that's terrible. Here in the inland northwest, we aren't seeing weather conditions quite that bad. We're seeing some cooler temperatures, though.
We need to get ready for it, and meteorologist Matt Gray is here. So how should we prepare, Matt, through the rest of the week?
I think everybody's going to be fine here for the next couple of days. We're going to have to maybe break out the raincoats that we haven't used in a while later this week. And that's because this little guy, it's not a little guy, not compared to what else is going on. But you can see pretty quiet across the country, even though it is fall. There's Fiona, by the way, headed towards the Turks and Caicos. But what we have here is some nice rain over northern California into southern Oregon. That'll help the fire crews there. We're getting to that point now where we're going to transition away from those smoky skies and into a more fall-like atmosphere. You can see some wet weather as well. Over Montana, we're in between systems right now, and we're going to end up with some cooler weather as we go through Tuesday and a little bit windier as well. Wind's going to end up in the 15-20 mile an hour range as we head into the afternoon. Start off in the 40s, won't be there for long. We'll be up in the 60s by lunchtime. Low to mid 70s for the afternoon and comfortable and in the 60s tomorrow evening under breezy conditions. We'll see a few spots get close to 80 degrees. Up and down the Grand Coulee will be very close to that. 84 for Lewiston. Omak hits 76. We'll be in the low 70s in the North Idaho Panhandle and right about 72 for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. Overall, some beautiful weather, but you definitely will notice those gusty winds. Here is, well, Tuesday morning, and already we'll be seeing gusts out of the east-northeast. It'll be even windier as we head into the afternoon, as it often is when we have these types of wind events. And there you go. Going to be quite gusty, especially in the Columbia Basin. Places around Ritzville could see a little bit of blowing dust, as we see so many times. We'll continue to see gusty winds through the night, and then we'll see things ease up a little bit for Wednesday. Because of some north winds, especially in the morning, we've got a fire weather watch up for the Omak area, as we'll see those little bit hotter weather in the afternoon and lower humidities. But good news, some rain's on the way, as I mentioned before. We'll show you when that shows up in a few minutes.
Matt, thank you. Around the nation tonight at the U.S. southern border, more buses are carrying dozens of migrants arriving in Democratic-led cities, with leaders now struggling to keep up. ABC's Morgan Norwood has more on how cities are working to get migrants the resources they need.
The immigration showdown reaching a tipping point as Texas Governor Greg Abbott and other Republican leaders send migrant buses and flights to Democratic-led sanctuary cities, continuing to stir a political fight. New York Mayor Eric Adams on This Week, sounding the alarm after several migrant buses arrived over the weekend. Adams asking for coordination with the federal government and Governors Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis. All of this as he says an asylum seeker died by suicide in a New York City shelter on Sunday.
This is an American crisis that we need to face.
Governor Greg Abbott's office says that he has sent nearly 11,000 migrants from Texas to Chicago, New York, and Washington. Mayor Muriel Bowser warning cities across the country to get prepared.
This is a national issue, and the nation's mayors need to be prepared.
Meanwhile, Governor Baker of Massachusetts says reform is the best remedy. His outcry comes as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis takes credit for the surprise migrant drop-offs on Martha's Vineyard.
I've been urging Republicans and Democrats in Washington to get together and to pass meaningful immigration reform. It's not a secret to anyone that our immigration system is broken.
And it's evident on the ground in Texas. El Paso's mayor claiming the surge at the border resulted in nearly 2,000 new migrants and asylum seekers per day, most from Venezuela. El Paso swelling beyond its limits, the mayor saying the city has no choice but to bus migrants elsewhere. But at least they're trying to communicate with leaders in those destinations.
The people are not coming to El Paso, they're coming to America. I mean, we talk to them, we say, where do you want to go? What's your destination?
And there have been more than 2.4 million migrant apprehensions along the U.S. southern border so far this fiscal year, with Republican governors saying the administration system is broken. Meanwhile, the White House says it's working on it and that it's surging resources to the region. I'm Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Well, you may have taken a few mental health days off from work or possibly school. In Washington, this could be an accepted reason. That story's coming up next.
Stream 4 News now on your TV for free with the KXLY Plus app.
Oh, life, how we admire you, are deeply fascinated by you. All your twists and turns and wild rides you take us on. The ups and the downs. Life, you live inside all of us, breathing, growing, beating. You are the reason we'll always provide world-class healthcare. Providence. We see the life in you.
The coolest cars, custom Jeeps, and tricked-out trucks are rolling into Max Auto Sports for the Maxed Out event. Right now, race into savings. 0 payments till January 2023. 0 gas costs for 6 months. 0 cost lifetime warranty. $4,000 over KBB, plus $500. That's $4,500 over KBB for your trade. The max savings during the Maxed Out event. 6 days only. It all ends Tuesday night. Now at Max Auto Sports.
States are banning abortion with no exceptions after Roe v. Wade, including Texas, where doctors could be punished up to 5 years in prison. Tiffany Smiley endorsed the Texas law. No surprise, since she says,
I am 100% pro-life.
It would only take a single vote in Congress to make abortion a crime and punish women and doctors nationwide, even in Washington. Don't give them their chance. Oppose Tiffany Smiley before it's too late.
I'm Patty Murray, and I approve this message.
A caring nurse who needed some care of his own.
I feel like I'm giving people their lives back again.
That's the upside to Robert's job. The downside?
I'm on my feet all the time.
Robert tried to deal with the pain on his own.
And I would roll tennis balls under my feet, frozen water bottles.
Nothing worked until he got fitted for Good Feet arch supports.
Now that I'm pain-free, I can make these people feel better.
Can't beat that. Get your free fitting at the Good Feet store.
4 News Now is brought to you by Canopy Credit Union.
Well, new tonight on Nightside, Washington is now one of 12 states that allow students to take an excused mental health day. This means schools can now accept mental health symptoms in the definition of an excused absence, just like if they were physical sick days. It formalizes allowing students to take days off to care for their mental health, including for counseling and behavioral health appointments. The law does not allow students to excuse themselves, and each district will come up with its own requirements. For example, if a parent or a doctor's note will be needed to determine whether an absence is excused.
A new study now shows senior citizens who've gotten COVID are at a much higher risk of being diagnosed with Alzheimer's within a year. Researchers have been tracking about 6 million elderly Americans. Seeing those who have had COVID are dealing with inflammation that may exacerbate changes that are already naturally happening within the brain, bringing on dementia earlier than when COVID wasn't around. Anyone who is a senior should talk to their doctor about preventative measures to help keep your brain healthy and reduce inflammation. Breezy weather's on the way, and we're cooling down in Spokane. Meteorologist Matt Gray has everything you need to know to prepare for the week ahead. Matt, it is Monday, so almost Tuesday, though.
Almost Tuesday. We're getting pretty close. Tomorrow, you can have the Fabio hair as we go throughout the day. Cool, blustery Tuesday. Could get a little dusty as well in the Columbia Basin. And that autumn chill, we're starting to feel that more and more in the mornings. But here's the big one right here, and this is the one that I want to focus on now. Rain coming up for the first day of fall. And, well, here we go. When that rain shows up, all of a sudden our temperatures start to drop. First day of fall on Thursday, we're going to end up in the 60s for a couple of days. We've been hovering around the average with our temperatures, which is about 73 this time of the year, 71 to 73. That has been great to see after we had a brief but pretty hot summer. So that storm system I showed you earlier, that's our culprit. It's going to track up our direction as we head into the middle of the week. Things pretty quiet tomorrow, but then as we head into Wednesday night and Thursday morning, here comes the moisture swinging around, and mainly in North Idaho, we'll end up with the best rainfall. We may see at least a little bit in the Spokane area. We'll kind of have to see how things wiggle around here in the computers over the next 24, 36 hours or so. But we have a pretty good shot at least waking up to some rain in Spokane, and much higher chances as you head across the state line into Kootenai County. And we'll follow that up with a cloudy day with maybe a couple of little sprinkles on Friday. After Friday, weather whiplash, things change again. It's fall, but it's not going to feel like it. Big high pressure comes in over the west, and we end up with temperatures, that's right, in the 80s by the time we get to a week from now. The good part of this, we're going to have a beautiful weekend next weekend. Looking like won't be any big situations for that otherwise. Of course, Thursday morning, that's going to be the time period to watch with that rain for the first day of fall. And that leaves us to our pick of the night. Fire season is winding down, but the work is not done yet. This was taken this weekend at the Boulder Mountain Fire, where they got the heavy equipment out, still trying to contain those last few bits around the perimeter of that fire in Pend Oreille County. I want to thank you, firefighters, and hope you have a great week as we wrap up fire season in the weeks ahead.
Thank you, Matt. Well, a group of Cannon Hill neighbors say they want to preserve the beautiful architecture there.
Yeah, homeowners are going to decide if the neighborhood will become a historic district. Ballots were recently mailed out, so you decide. Neighbors know more that people will move in and that they'll want to keep their current feel alive. The historic title applies to over 500 homes within the district. Supporters say it protects structures, but it doesn't put up red tape. Changes to exteriors facing the street would undergo review, and it doesn't regulate fencing, landscaping, garages, structures, or paint colors.
Trying for is your children and your children's children will have that feeling. Now I'm getting all...
Are you getting trouble?
I am. Will have that same feeling when they walk through the neighborhood.
If passed, it'll apply to all new building permits and homes built before 1955. The committee needs 50% plus one to receive a vote from City Council. Ballots are due back November 15th.
Tonight, the University of Oregon is apologizing to BYU for an anti-Mormon chant during Saturday's game in Eugene. Oregon tweeted it sincerely apologizes for the offensive and disgraceful chant and says there's no place for hate, bias, or bigotry in the campus community. University officials say the incident will be investigated.
Well, the Washington State Cougars are coming off their best performance of the season, but have another test ahead this weekend with the Oregon Ducks. Coming up in sports, Alex Crescenti shows us one position group that may give the Cougars defense a challenge.
Sign up for breaking news alerts with the 4 News Now app.
4 News Now is brought to you by Just Between Friends Northwest.
I'm Janine Teagues from Philadelphia. Girl, we already know who you are. Get to it. People think school starts when the kids get here, but it starts at development week. It's the calm before the storm. It's very zen, actually. It's all you need.
You guys gotta see what's in the cafeteria.
For real.
Bill's Heating and Air Conditioning is your family-owned and operated HVAC expert. Bill's can beat any licensed contractor's price with the lowest price guarantee in the area. 24-hour service available every day and $59 service calls. Bill's reminds you with the cold weather approaching, it's a good idea to change your air filters monthly. Perform annual maintenance on your equipment to maximize performance and use a smart thermostat to increase savings. Bill's Heating and Air Conditioning has the lowest price guarantee. Call today for estimates and repairs.
Thanks to Joe Biden, food, fuel, everything costs too much. His energy policies and massive spending spree are driving skyrocketing prices, fueling the worst inflation in decades. 2 years ago, we were a self-sufficient, energy-independent, energy-exporting nation. Today, our energy production has been crippled. I'm Mike Crapo. I approve this message. Let's stop the spending free-for-all, let loose American energy, and fix inflation.
The idea of owning a home was a really big dream of mine. It felt kind of like a pipe dream. When I think of a mortgage advisor, I think of someone who is stuffy, not approachable or friendly. But then we went to BECU and I met Lauren. She was like, this is what we're gonna do. This is how you make it happen. This is how you buy a home. And it wasn't scary or overwhelming. Watching my daughter grow up in a home that we own is amazing. My mortgage advisor changed my life and my family's life.
Well, the Washington State Cougars are coming off their best-looking performance of the season, beating Colorado State 37-7 on Saturday afternoon to wrap up non-conference play. And it was a battle for the team to even get to 3-0, but the schedule doesn't get any easier as they welcome in the 15th-ranked Oregon Ducks this coming weekend, who are a bit of an enigma themselves. The Ducks open up their season by getting their doors blown off of them by Georgia, managing just 3 points all day long and less than 315 yards of total offense, which sounds insane because when you think of Oregon, you associate them with one of the best offenses in the country. But then they followed it up 2 weeks later with a throttling of BYU. So it's tough to say how good this team actually is. What they are good at, however, is protecting the quarterback. The offensive line hasn't given up a sack all season, and Washington State head coach Jake Dickert was impressed with how they are able to keep QB Bo Nix upright all season long.
They've actually had a lot of different pieces in and out of the lineup through 3 games up front. But, yeah, a lot of short, intermediate quicks when they plan to take their shots down the field. They get a lot of max protection. So it's getting the ball out of his hands, but it's also a quarterback that's confident in the scheme and knows where he wants to go. And they're giving him some clean reads, and he's getting the ball out and letting their playmakers make plays in space. So definitely a combination, but even a stat I didn't know. But, you know, they've been keeping them clean, and I think it's a combination of how good they are and what they're trying to do offensively.
And it'll be yet another day game for the Cougs as they kick off from Martin Stadium at 1 on Saturday afternoon. And coming out of this weekend, the Seattle Mariners were not in a good place. Losers of 3 straight, and one of their best hitters, Eugenio Suarez, going down with a hand injury. And the team might literally be limping to the end of the regular season, but today a chance to salvage their series against the Angels. Well, the Mariners offense getting off on the right note. In the top of the first, all-star Ty France lines the ball into left field. J.P. Crawford is going to hustle all the way from first base, and he slides in safely, and it's a 1-0 Mariners lead. But as it was turned out, they wouldn't need a whole lot of offense today because Logan Gilbert was dealing. In the second, he gets Mike Ford swinging to strike out the side. He would go 6 innings, only giving up 1 run on 4 hits and striking out 11 batters. Now, we mentioned not a whole lot of need for offense, but Carlos Santana did not get that memo. In the 5th, with the bases loaded, he'll send this ball out of the park for the grand slam, his 18th home run on the season, 14th in a Mariner uniform, and the M's starting to pull away in this one. But just for good measure, in the 7th, Ty France is going to send this one to dead center for a 3-run home run, and the M's piling it on now as they finally get the offense going in the last game of the series as they take this one 9-1 down in Anaheim. Now, Seattle is still sitting in the last wild card spot, but currently holds a 4-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles, so that's good news. As for the injuries piling up, France says it's just next man up.
I think, we all collectively as a group see, the guys that were our hot bats were, they're gone now. So hopefully we can get them back quick. But, I think everyone kind of just sees it as an opportunity to step up and hopefully be that guy. And, it's one of my favorite things about this group of guys that we don't rely on just one person. It's anyone in this, JP swung the bat well today. A lot of guys swung the bat well. So, we don't just rely on one guy.
The team will now start a 3-game series out in Oakland starting tomorrow evening. 4 News Now, we'll be right back.
Stream 4 News Now on your TV for free with the KXLY Plus app. At 4 News Now, we believe you should expect more from local news. Our team is committed to a community conversation and bringing you information you need when and where you need it. Numerica believes in and supports that mission.
I met Chris through a phone call. He was talking to me about his landscaping company, and he was looking to get some financing. What I like about Numerica is when it comes to decision making, it's right down the hall, and we're able to meet his needs within a month.
I'm sorry, sir. You forgot this.
Wait, you?
Customer service.
Your employees work hard for you. Give them a health plan that works harder for them. From Primera Blue Cross, with more options to fit your business needs and budget. Because your employees depend on it. Find your plan at business.primera.com. Oh, life, we hear you beating out the rhythm of our days. We know you live fully. It's why we pioneer new treatments. Because when it comes to matters of the heart, you deserve world-class health care. Providence, we see the life in you.
If you have a vehicle you no longer need, you can give it new purpose through Union Gospel Mission. Simply go to ugmmotors.org or call 509-327-HELP to schedule a pickup. Your donation gives people like Tyler food, shelter, job training, and the opportunity for a whole new life. Be a driver of change. Donate your vehicle to Union Gospel Mission.
Tomorrow on Good Morning Northwest, 2 proposals affecting Spokane's homeless community. We'll tell you what the city council decides tonight.
And illusions, interactive magic, and an impossible escape. Champions of Magic are coming to Spokane. A sneak peek of the show tomorrow on Good Morning Northwest.
See breaking news in your area or have a story idea? Contact 4 News Now.
All right, some dogs riding the waves. You can't think of a better ending to the show here. Let's take a look. They're out there with their life jackets on, and they're doing their best staying on the surfboards. This is in Del Mar, near San Diego. Over 70 dogs competed in 10-minute heats for a panel of judges, and the best in surf went to Petey the Westie. I bet all of those dogs did better than I do. I'm horrible at surfing.
Wait, is that Petey the Westie right there?
I don't think so. Westies are usually white.
Oh.
Well, that might be a white dog. It's dirty out there.
They're all best in show. It's a snacky.
Lots of sand.
Surfing
Sandy.
dog.